Welcome to the Rapport Advantage Podcast, transforming the way leaders communicate. Here's your host, human behavior expert and professional speaker, Alex Swire-Clark.
Welcome to the show. I was doing all kind of crazy body language stuff and pointing and flexing and stuff, but you couldn't see that because this is a podcast, so it's audio only. That's why body language is so important when you're having conversations with people via interview or whatever else. You get the full picture of what someone's trying to say, and that's why today's episode is about body language. Welcome to the show, Liz.
Oh, thank you, Alex. I thought you were mad at me looking at that expression. So for the listeners, yes, he had some very angry looking body language.
I don't know if I was like going into some old memory of me fussing at my 15-year-old for not getting her homework done or what have you. But anyway, that was kind of how we channeled our inner body language segment. Welcome to the Rapport Advantage Podcast. If you haven't listened to our podcast before, stop, go back, listen to episode 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That gives you a nice firm foundation to our disc knowledge. If you have listened to those before, then welcome to the show. And you know that we're here to help you break down the walls of miscommunication, increase your emotional intelligence, and build better relationships in the workplace and beyond. That's right. We're back with the sound effects today because my adapter came up. Woo! It was missing in action, but it's back. Liz Parker's here to join me today. What's going on today, Liz?
Not too much, Alex, but I'll just give everybody a little bit of a background that I am a certified behavioral analyst and I do job benchmarking as well as a strategic growth consultant. But do they know who you are?
Probably. They've been hearing my jaws flap in the breeze now for 30 plus episodes. But I am a CEO, speaker, and an emotional intelligence expert. I do keynotes, workshops, that kind of thing. So if you have a need for improving the communication of your team or your corporation and you just can't quite get everybody on the same page, bring me and I'll do a workshop for you. If you have an association, I'd be happy to do a keynote for you in that regard. We have fun, get everybody around the room, up and out of their seats, throwing candy at people. It's a great time. Comments are always positive. So we have a good time and people learn something along the way. Today's topic, as we said at the beginning of the show, is identifying body language. So last week we talked about how to look and appreciate and understand and be able to identify the styles based upon vocal tones and speech patterns. And today we're focusing on the body language side of that. Liz is going to kick us off with those high Ds and what we're looking for out of those folks.
That's right. Because being part of a high D, it's one of these, as you look through the list and you go, what kind of body language am I giving off? And the first one is a firm handshake. You can see anyone or you can feel anyone who actually comes into this that has a very firm handshake. They also will have very steady eye contact, but that's only if they're interested. You will see Ds out there who, if they're not interested, they are looking everywhere but you. But if they are engaged, they are right there penetrating your eyes. They've also got some gestures. They will do finger pointing very specifically. They'll be like, you're the one I'm talking to. And you will feel that thing coming through. So in doing that, they will sometimes display impatience in their body language, and they tend to move fast in their body language. And one of the last things, and I know this is a long list, but we do have a lot of those, is that high Ds dislike being casually touched. So don't walk up and do a big old bear hug on a big D because they are not going to like it.
They are not huggers. I mean, no way. They don't do the hug thing very well. They are also about that personal space kind of intervention. They push through that. So they will get up in your face, and if they've got something to say, they'll kind of smack you on the back or whatever, and good job, and that type of thing. So they're always that forward-leaning, kind of advancing mentality to try to, again, that's kind of who they are. They're always moving forward and leaning forward. Very well done. I will start with the eyes. The eyes are very expressive in how they communicate with these. They also have big gestures, and to kind of stop and pause for a minute, the D's in the eyes have some parts that are very similar in their body language because they are outgoing, and the S's and C's will have some things that they share because they're more reserved. So this kind of impacts that reserved outgoing dynamic. So again, the eyes, expressive, a very friendly posture, very open usually. Not a lot of crossed arms from eyes. They are very much open. Their hands out to the side, use their hands a lot when they're speaking, communicate things, and they're going to have that, typically that amusing type of mentality and or posture because, again, they want people to like them. And so if they can tell a joke or say something funny or have a little stand-up comedy performance, got them spontaneously, they're not going to be against that. So that's my portion on the eyes.
Well, can I add to that? Just because being an eye, it reminds me of when I was living over in Hong Kong. When I left to go to Hong Kong, I was wearing the loudest colors you can ever imagine. So we had the bright pinks, the bright reds. I mean, I had the hair way out. It was all very outward, very stylish in my world. However, when you got to Hong Kong, where they're more reserved with that SC style, everybody was in black and gray. Everybody. I mean, they could see me coming for miles away. And after 7 years of living there, I came back with a black wardrobe.
My wonderful high eyelids got muted. Aww.
I did. It was just too much for them.
It's a cultural thing sometimes too, but those eyes are all about the flair and oh, look at me. So you'll see those big earrings and that kind of thing, and the flashy nail polish and the really cute shoes that stand out. But I don't have any of those problems being of the male persuasion. I typically don't wear earrings. Moving on to our S's. S's are very, very cool in the fact that they don't really try to stand out. And so from the way they speak and they're moving, they have these gentle gestures, that kind of welcoming, more of a muted but friendly. It's not like an attack you hug. It's like kind of a little pat on the back kind of hug. So they're that reassuring gestures, gentle, harmonious, let's all get along, kind of like kumbaya type of thing. So not going to do anything to stand out.
Well, and it seems to me that as I think about S's that I know, they are, if you can't figure out what's really going on with them, they have like a poker face. It's if you can't see anything really in that expressive look, it's a very good clue they could be an S because you're wondering what's going on in that brain. I can't tell if they're happy, sad, whatever they are. That for me is a real indicator of an S. Indeed.
You have to pull teeth to kind of get information out of them because they don't want their opinion to upset the apple cart most times. So they'll just sit there and they'll nod and they'll listen and they'll ask good questions. And when you're done talking to them as a D or I, you're like, oh man, these S's are awesome. They just listen to me. Yep. And that's one of the things that makes them the glue of any organizations because they're not about the drama. They're about listening and helping others. And so that's a key critical component to that.
So building off of the S's going to the C's, like you said, they are both the S's and C's are kind of reserved in how they approach things. The C's are going to be wearing very subdued colors. They're going to favor conventional styles. They're going to stick with the facts. They're going to be very data driven by kind of what's the best out there. They will tend to prefer conventional vehicles, nothing that's too state of the art. They want to stay with the tried and true, the safety side of things. I think very similar to S's from that standpoint. And they will have very intermittent eye contact. They're not going to be ones that want to look you down in the eye and do that major eye contact. It's like touching them too. They're not nuts about being touched.
Agreed. Very unemotional in terms of how they do things. Those C's are just fact-driven, and a lot of times they have what I call the chronic scowl. And so that's that kind of that, which you can't see because we're audio, but listening. And so from that perspective, they're just thinking all the time. That chronic scowl appears on their face, and it's not because they're not happy. They're just, they got that going on. Why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? When it comes to the C and that high scowl mentality, it's not that they're mean or whatever, but they're just very controlled in how they use their gestures. They're very assessing all the time. Those frowns are normal. That unemotional side of things is kind of where they live.
Would you like to rephrase any of that if your wife decides to listen to this as a high C and that you're saying she has a scowl on her face all the time?
Well, that's their natural way, and it's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. So again, they're always thinking about how can I improve this process, or what things do I have to accomplish today, and what's the best order to have them in so that I can be the most efficient with my time. And so that brain is just always going. As high eyes, our brain kind of kicks in
randomly
every 3 to 4 hours, maybe, who knows. And so, we're just happy to be here, excited and happy. And so that's why we're smiling and that kind of thing.
That's right.
So going back and kind of reshaping and what we did from last week, Liz, last week we went through these, and then we went back and kind of went into, okay, now that we have these, what kind of questions can we ask? From today's perspective, I think there are 2 key points, and I'm going to hit on the first one. Let's see if you can come up with that second one. But the first key point, I think, from today is that eye contact. If we're walking in to that prospect for the first time, we walk in and we say, hey, I'm Alex, and you're Liz, and hey, if we got that immediate eye contact, we can pretty much go with the fact that we're dealing with an outgoing type. So we're going to deal with D or I at that point in time. So immediately we know which half of the graph, top or bottom, we're working with. So that kind of subtle, maybe is more of an S or C, and that firm look you in the eye with either a old gunfighters kind of stare is going to be more of a D, but just a, oh, hey, nice to meet you kind of a deal is going to be more of the I side of things. That would be
I know where you're going.
Well, you take me there then, because I don't know where I'm going.
So the second part of that is if there are big gestures, if they are motioning with their hands a lot, if they're moving around a lot, you got a chance that they're the expressive, which is the D or I. And if their gestures are very small or not at all, you're working with an S or C. So as you look at not only eye contact, but gestures, you'll see that, and as I'm explaining this, I cannot talk without moving my hands. So the expressive being the D and I, and reserve the S and C.
That's right. So D and I, big and wild. S and C is definitely more reserved, more controlled. And again, if you go back to what we talked about last week in the episode, when you ask those leading questions, those things will start to come out naturally when you get into question 2, 3, and 4. And so the more comfortable they are with you, the more they'll get into their natural body language and position, and boom, 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 boom. It'll all just start to cascade from there, and all the little pieces will start to come together. Besides the fact of the clothing they're wearing, or the way their office looks, which we're going to talk about here in the upcoming weeks. So we use all of these tools together. Don't just isolate them, because again, like we've seen in the past, and Liz and I have talked about this with corporations in the past, about when you're interviewing folks, people can put on a good front. My wife, who's a high C, she can act high I all the time when she's with our clients.
Yes.
Just smiling and happy and, oh, Ginger's so bubbly and whatever. And that's not who she normally is. She has to really adapt to get there. So you have to look at the other pieces of the puzzle that go into this, the speech, body language, what they're wearing, office, that kind of thing, social media, all these parts kind of blend together to give you the true picture, so you're not just isolating on one key part. Oh, she was smiling. Oh, there's a firm handshake. Got to be a D. Well, no, we're taught to shake hands firmly in the business world to show a sign of respect and strength and authority and that kind of thing. Don't isolate these individual episodes. Take them all as a list of each individual tool in the tool belt to help you get the job done.
That is a wonderful recap. I would agree wholeheartedly that we do start to look at things kind of piecemeal, and you hit the whole point. Look at the whole person, see how they behave. And after, if you, especially interviewing, if you have them in your office for a while, you'll start to see those characteristics come out. That's right.
Once you get to question 3 and 4, and they've kind of gotten more comfortable with you, and you've made them feel at home, especially if you're high S, it's really easy, because I'm just, oh, so great to have you, no pressure, and all that kind of stuff when I'm in the interview process. So they get to, I start hearing about their spouses or their cats, or, I just dug a trench in my yard. It was, okay, well, that's great. I didn't really ask about that, but all right, sweet. So to recap, D's, big gestures, powerful, leaning forward, advancing. Those I's are going to be expressive, friendly posture, going to be very playful, amusing. S's are going to be more reserved, so that gentle gestures, but they're going to be reassuring in terms of their body language. They're going to try not to stand out. That's what they do with their clothing and everything else. And those C's, unemotional, controlled gestures, if any at all. They're going to constantly be assessing. And again, a frown doesn't mean they don't like you. They're just keeping on with that think tank, always in motion.
Love it.
That's going to do it for today's show. I'd like to thank Liz, as always, for joining me today. Liz, how can folks get in touch with you?
They can reach me at liz@ltresults.com or my website at ltresults.com. How about you?
Awesome. They can see us on the website, alexswire-clark.com, or they can reach out to us on our new Facebook group page, which we're excited about. Head over to Facebook and search the Rapport Advantage podcast. We've got a Rapport Advantage page for my speaking business, but we want you guys to be able to talk about the things that you go through on a daily basis, or those type of emotional things that you deal with, or ask questions, or ask Liz and I for any advice. The podcast Facebook page is the best place to get us there. So just click to join. We'll have some great questions and get your feedback. Of course, we're, disclaimer, we're not licensed clinical social workers or anything like that, but we are experts in human behavior. So we'll help you on that front as best we can. On our next podcast, we're going to dive into identifying styles by office decor. So when you're on that prospecting visit, you'll be ready to know who you're talking with. Again, adding that to yet another tool in your tool belt. That's going to do it for today. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Rapport Advantage podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Join the conversation on Facebook at the Rapport Advantage and follow us on Twitter at Rapport Podcast.